and keep your energy up because it'll be worth
Sure.
it. And even if you have humble numbers, like modest numbers, don't worry about that because it'll take some time and you'll start, it's like a snowball. It'll start to accumulate and every one success that you make each year is going to be one more than you had last year. And so just think of it in terms of just sort of incremental growth.
Yeah,
um,
true. We will not fed up. Like we're keep going. We're doing our best. We're trying to brainstorm new incentive, like I said, then use something to make more the program appealing for mentees, especially.
yeah.
Like even if you're not getting paid, maybe you will not find a job by the end of this program, but you will get, of course, you're gonna gain more skills and skills.
The other thing too is a lot of companies do pick up on the fact that if you've been in a mentorship program and you have it on your resume, maybe Sarah can talk to that a little bit, but I know that people do put it on their resume, and so which is we're really proud that they do.
We created actually, Doug, a certificate of recognition for them, like to help them. Like you can add it on your resume. We did this already, so.
Yeah, and it's appealing to the employer because it shows that you've put some time into your own integration into the workplace. And I mean, people may not know about your program, but if they see something that relates to a mentorship experience, good HR departments will pick up on that, and employers will pick up on that, and they may ask questions about it too. And it's like, well, how did it go, right? And so I think, yeah, it's a tough one. Good morning, Dawn. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you. Sorry to be a few moments late, but good morning, everyone. Happy to be here.
Oh, great to see you in the cosmos. And Crystal, good to see you again twice in 1 week. Boy, that's great fortune for us.
Very fortunate for me too. Thank you. Sorry I was a little bit late as well.
No problem. No problem. Sarah, I don't know if you wanted to chime in on this challenge that Rana has gone through, and I know Crystal probably can identify with this too.
Yes, for sure, Doug. Thank you for the opportunity to share. So based on my experience, whenever I meet clients who are working and is still interested in the mentorship program, I always tell them that it is important to have a wide variety of network, right? Like even though you're working, these mentors can still add value, right? Like for example, I use myself as an example. I used to, I still work with, I was still working with my mentor when I was already working. And the reason for that is because I wanna excel, right? Like I wanna excel on that particular professional job. And so I tap into my mentor, right? He provided me with more networks, right, in order for me to excel in that other nonprofit role. So that's how I try to convince mentees who are already working, and I try to enlighten them and tell them that things could change, right? Like you might be employed right now, but things usually change, right? Like it's never, there's never a constant. But what is constant is that you had made this connection, and this connection you could eventually use it for all other for all your journey, right? Like well you're here in Canada, so whatever happens, there might be some layoffs, or you might lose your job, you can reconnect with this mentor, and it's like you're safe, like because you have different connections at different point in your time in your job search journey as well. Yeah.
I know, Crystal, I know that the recruitment question is always, something that is a constant. And I know Rana was just explaining to us that they're having a difficult time recruiting mentees. So, and I said it's either one side or the other. You're always constantly recruiting. You're on mute.
Yeah, that's one of our challenges, was obtaining mentees. But slowly we're getting mentees because we started late. We started in November and we were supposed to start recruitment September, October, but there was some setbacks. So we started it a little late. And as you know, December can be really busy for everybody. So I know a lot of our mentees or students are going on vacation, or they're getting work and they don't want to come in and see the benefits of having a mentor. But we've been advertising through our social media platforms, interagencies, informing our community partners. So we're starting to obtain more mentees. Also, we're allowing in our program for late participants since we started late. So it's making it more flexible for both mentor and mentee. I also discovered too that I'm willing to adjust my work schedule in order to accommodate registering and training new mentors and mentees. I've been doing a lot of one-on-one training right now with mentors and mentees. I discovered this is the most conducive way to train them as the project has just started. But that way, it might be like a long process to do this one-on-one, but at the same time, there's an advantage because I'm learning more about the mentee, what their career goals are and where their struggles are. And that I, have that conversation with them so that I can better match them with a mentor.
And I think too, and I can relate, I'm a little bit distant from the process these days because I have a team that does this now, but in early days, I was very intimate with the process because I was interviewing both mentors and mentees in our early days. And that I'd say, being hands-on like that, especially, eventually you'll get to a position where, you're managing a team. But at this point, it's a great opportunity to test out the materials that you have. It also is a great way to get to know intimately, one-on-one, doing those interviews, what the needs are. As you said, Crystal, it helps to make better matches. And I'm sure, Rana, you're in the same boat. Doing a chief cook and bottle washer of all that is mentorship. And I would say take advantage of those days. I know it's a lot of work, but it really does help to hone your program because you have an intimate, once you start having team members coming on board, you can now relate real experience and real, sort of learnings that you've garnered through the process. So if you don't, and you're just managing a program and you're distant from the real lives of the people that includes mentors as well. Then it's hard to be a salesperson because part of recruitment is sales. And so that's why I say, take advantage of these days while you can, because 6 months from now, a year from now might be a little bit different, or 2 years from now, who knows. But there'll be a day where you'll be onboarding a team and you'll be able to relate to them now with some real stories. Wow, we just look at all of us just thinking about Christmas. Or the holiday season, the break.
I'm thinking of 21 below.
What's that?
Oh no.
I'm looking at 21 below. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
Oh gosh. Dawn, where are you based out of?
Oh, I'm in Calgary.
Okay.
But then as a bright light, every year religiously, I go to Winnipeg for Christmas. So it's usually Calgary is a couple of degrees colder than Winnipeg at Christmas. So I take some satisfaction in that. Morbid satisfaction, I guess.
And Dawn, remind me who you're with.
Yes, I'm a member of the Business and Professional Women's Club of Calgary. And we do have an Alberta chapter. We have a chapter in Edmonton, the two chapters in the province. So therefore we could be provincial. That's why as well interested in what your Alberta provincial organization is doing.
Yeah.
I'm on the international committee as well. And Yes, that's where I'm from. Answer the
Oh,
question. Yeah,
that's great. No,
thank you.
that's and do you have I guess membership in Fort McMurray or Grand Prairie or Edmonton or
We do have membership in Edmonton, yes, and we would like to have membership across the province. We have in the past, some years past, in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, but those chapters didn't continue over time. So that's been quite a while ago. So I do appreciate the fact that there's different needs, different times, why people join different organizations or programs and how they do continue. But I just thought you might like to know that the Edmonton chapter is 4 years old, and the Alberta entity is, no, I think Edmonton's 5, Alberta's 4, and Calgary's 95.
wow.
So we have different levels of sustainability here. And we're trying to figure out how to celebrate 95. Should be easy, but trying to get people together, as you've all said, is the easiest thing on earth. But we're very proud of 95 years of continued uninterrupted service to the community. And one of the first members was Nellie McClung, as you may all be aware of her.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we have some traditions, but in this day and age, sometimes we have to do different things, right, to be viable. So thinking about those things as well.
Totally. Yeah. Well, why not celebrate by having your membership become aware of mentorship and be involved with mentorship in a virtual way?
That is just absolutely fabulous. Just like celebrate by giving something back. I think that's just brilliant. Thank you. Yes.
Well, wherever we can help out. I mean, like this is, just about celebrating, sort of the culture of mentorship today. And as you
Yes.
can hear, everybody's at different stages of development, and which is great. I mean, it's nice to hear that there's a community out there, a family, if you will, out there of people who are trying to do work vicariously through mentorship, and I, we know it works, and that's part of the communications too. I know that as Rana was talking about it earlier about trying to recruit people, how do you convince people, and looking at the value of the investment of time for either the mentor or the mentee to commit, and and so that and it's not unusual. We have to do some nudging and prodding and encouraging, and up to a point. In fact, we were sharing this with Crystal the other day. It's like we kind of use some sort of minor sales techniques. So how many times do you poke at a mentor or at a mentee? And we had set informal policies of like 3 emails and a phone call, and then that was it. Like that. You just, if you can't get somebody to sign up, then you got to move on, and you got to look for other sort of possibilities and opportunities. So those are the kinds of things too. But in that pitch too is what's in it for them, and what's in it for the company if it's the mentor, and then the same thing for the mentee. What's in it for them? Like many folks coming from across the world, mentorship is kind of like, well, the heck is that? And like sounds like fancy sort of term, and they may use it in other countries, or they may have a different interpretation of what that is in different countries and cultures. So it's about being clear about what the benefits are and what the commitment is, and so for mentors, like leadership possibilities, free training. I mean, here's a sort of an opportunity to have a sort of cross-cultural or intercultural experience, and sort of introducing people to what it's like to work in Canada. And it sounds sounds kind of simple, but and even for a mentor, they question, they go, well, I don't know, what am I going to teach them? Well, you work here, you understand a little bit of that. Nobody teaches us how to teach somebody else about Canadian work culture, but we do have practical experience.
If I might tell you one of my experiences, that our mentorship chair called me a number of times to be a mentor for this particular individual who she didn't tell me who she was, but I thought, okay, I'm sure this is going to be intimidating. That's why she keeps asking me, right? And anyways, she finally called me too many times, and I asked her, why me? Why are you calling me all the time? Why am I supposed to do this? Like, where am I failing in my understanding? She said, well, we have a young lady who's joined our organization, and she's a former United States Olympian. And I said, well, why me? How can I possibly do this? Like, an Olympian. And then I said, well, what's the sport? She says, well, shooting. And I said, I'm not sure about this. So of course, I did it. And we're still fast friends. And she basically was fine in her career. She was making a career change from what she studied. She studied in the States where they have snow and everything, skiing. That's where they did their training. So she was training and studying at the same time. So anyways, she comes up to Calgary because she had family here. And I just thought, this is just, why me? And so we just met, and there were certain things that she wanted to be learning about and certain things she wanted to be doing, not always career minded. There were other things that she had in mind, and we're still in touch. That was about, I would say that was 10 years ago. So I was very pleased that relationship developed really well. But when you speak of sales, you can call a prospective mentor too many times. And I almost didn't do that because of this particular approach was just getting a little heavy-handed for me. But I always feel that when someone asks you to step up and be helpful, I think all of you, from what I can tell, you're all in leadership roles here. I think, especially if you have doubts about it, you should do it.
That's sage advice. Kimo, welcome. Najib and Ricardo.
Morning.
How did your interview go, Najib?
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you.
Ricardo. Oh, I think you were
morning.
invisible there for a second.
I did have my camera. I got this new camera and this new desktop, so I got to remember to push the top down so it pops up. Usually I have this sort of, I'm a bit neophyte to all this iCloud and who get to access your camera and watch it. So I always do, and I got to turn this down.
How's it going, Kimo?
Everything is going well. I had a conflicting things today. I have the National Local Immigration Partnership Secretariat Anti-Racism Workshop going on at the same time. So.
Well, thanks for making time, all of you, for this. I know this is kind of just today's just a social, really, and just just trying to build the family, if you will, and so just taking an opportunity. I know our days are full of very important meetings, and sometimes it's just at this time of the year, it's sometimes nice just to take a little bit of a break and a breather, just to have a chat. And I know Cheryl, I think it was Cheryl or Annette put up something in terms of.
I just like the invitation, really, we sort of broke right in, with Rana talking about challenges in recruiting mentees. And, there are so many challenges, especially once you're first starting. It's a really good practice. I do this in entrepreneurial communities I'm part of, to take time to celebrate and to name things that, feel like a good news story, in part to just support each other with there are good things, even as we're scrambling for the mentees that are hard to find, or the mentors, or space, or whatever the issue is. So just wanted to make space that people could share, whatever the win is around mentorship. And so, yeah, wanted to extend that invitation to anybody who wanted to share a bit from their worlds about what's going well.
The psychology of positivity.
Yes.
Well, and I'll just say as an entrepreneur, like I have long, lonely days in my basement office that occasionally it's like, what am I doing this for? Like what? Yeah. And then you do, these sort of things, you go, oh, that's my why. This is why I do it. Yeah.
Well,
So, go ahead, Dawn.
I was Dawn. This is Dawn here. I was just wondering. It sounds to me that each of you have all continued your mentorship programs through the pandemic, and I really want to celebrate that because our organization didn't. We had a really good, solid mentorship program for a number of years. It started out working with the University of Calgary, and then a major bank wanted to follow on with what we were doing and then go into their organization. And we had professional women who had certificates and degrees and everything, and they were running our programs. But just during this time of pandemic, we just didn't seem to have the energy to carry it. So I don't know how you all did, but good for you. And the thing is, during the pandemic, I kept thinking, well, this is the time that people will need us to provide a mentorship program. So to get us back on track would be really something I could celebrate next year. Perhaps I can learn from you how to do that in tough times. How do you do it? We all have our tough times. This wasn't good. This was not good. I thought during a pandemic not to be helping people in this regard. So I felt very badly. So I don't want to have to hide, but I felt very badly about that.
No, I don't think, Dawn, you should hide. I thank you for raising that point, because I think in all our respective jobs, I really try to perfect an art how to sit and look cool despite all the storms brewing inside and outside. Like chemo, I sit here and I'm trying to be in this moment, but there's 1,001 things happening. And I think living in that sort of perspective, and I come at this job as a retired principal, so I'm used to things happening at any given moment. And COVID happened to be one of those moments that came upon us. So I know and I love this word that came through COVID, because I also coach basketball, and it says, you had to pivot. So I'm so tired of pivoting. I feel like I'm still on the court playing basketball.
On the court.
What I did with staff very early on, and which we do now, because now the beauty about COVID, it allowed us to have these multiple ways in which we could work through services and conduct business. But it had to redefine, and I'm in charge of a division that's called community development and integration. And if you look at the first part of that is, and all my grad work and studies in community, is redefining what is a community. Is it a physical locale? Is it in fact a geographical space? Or is it a social construct that we got used to? So once we redefine community, could be like where we are now. We are in community over this. And once we had that paradigm shift, I prefer that than pivoting. Once we made that paradigm shift, we were now able to say, if this is the world as we know it now, and didn't have this past context, how would we conduct business? So we started to reconstruct and redesign what our business delivery model would look like using this modality. So that allows us to make contact and formulate plans and start to work under this new construct. And I think for us that sustain us throughout. I know different agencies in the sector says, oh, we can't do business, so shut it down. And you had people who were laid off, and you had et cetera like that. But I do think that thanks to our funders who stayed with us, I think it was imperative to create this sort of critical hope even for your staff. When the staff came to you and said, hey, I can't do this because I go to the community. And it's like when I saw teachers who, prior to computers in the classroom, we walked up and down rows and did business and work. And if there's a shutdown of computer staff, we can't do business because the computers are all broke. So how do you teach? Do you need computers to teach? I mean, there is something that's happening. That's why, I started this with the construct of the iCloud. Oh, put all your stuff in iCloud. Who the heck owns the iCloud? I don't know. It's just my personal bias. I don't know who manages that. So to come back to this discussion you started, though, I think it's a really critical piece. Ironically, since the constraints have been lax, the greatest challenge in this piece is really doing it in a live mode. I find some of the staff now, when they say, well, how do you get out? I said, you need to do the old-fashioned way. Get in that car, go and visit people, talk to people, make connections. Like, you can't just kind of figure it out, because when we were on this modality, you were connecting. So now get back into the community, and you need to really look at opportunities for mentoring. I was in a staff meeting yesterday with my staff from Brooks, and a lady mentioned from Drumheller, look, there's this new couple. The man is working at the hospital. The lady is a trained physician in Drumheller, and she's looking, to how you get through credentials and work. So I said, isn't that interesting? Could this be a potential client that for mentoring? So I said to my staff who's in charge of that piece in Brooks, well, get in touch with her. Let's get to the Drumheller community, make contacts, and let's see if there's an opportunity where she could gain some experience, not to practice, obviously, but just to become familiar and find some Canadian experiences. And I think this old-fashioned way, we are caught in this dichotomy of how to do things. And sometimes this fear and whatever stuff we have inhibits, or it inhibits action for us being proactive in the work.
Yeah.
I think we got to get over these fears.
Mhm.
And thanks, Kathy. And I think I'm new, and I'm actually learning from all of you. It's a different kind of model I'm trying to have in Lloydminster with the mentorship program, wherein I will have somebody that I'll be working with to do this. But as Ricardo was saying, the COVID era has taught us a lot of things. When we look at even ESL, some of the the new immigrants learning English languages, and doing all those language classes, who prefer in person, but some, because of the COVID, during the COVID, and we're looking at babysitting, childcare issues, and all these other things, some prefer to have the online courses, while some still prefer the in-person. So that creates the idea of a hybrid model, which presently, that is some of the benefit that I'm even having. I'm working in Lloydminster, about today as I'm talking right now, I'm in Edmonton. I'm able to do certain work. I'm doing a hybrid model now. I go to Lloydminster every other week. And I think the world has changed, which was not possible in the past. But now that COVID has come, I would say one of the positives of that we could have a hybrid model in things we're doing. So I believe these, and this will be even wonderful with the mentorship, wherein small centers like Lloydminster maybe struggling of certain mentors. We'll be able to do a hybrid model wherein for those who are in the localities can meet in person with their mentors, but if places where we can't, we would be able to get somebody from Calgary, say, can you help us here? We need. So I think there's benefits in all these. And I think for small centers like us, I think this would be very much valuable. And as in the next 2 years, we're expecting 500,000 immigrants coming. So some of them are coming in numbers in our smaller centers. We will be actually needing a lot of this work. So not all is going to be the traditional way we used to do it. And I think we need to adjust to that, the realities of today, and having that, not forgetting about the traditional way, which people like, because I have learned an experience with the ESL, wherein some people still like to go to class and meet with a teacher, while some would prefer, because of childcare and driving, some of the smaller centers, you have to drive. In winter like this, I'm not able to, if there's no transportation, they will prefer to be in their home and still connect with their mentor. So we still, I think we should be shaping the mentorship in that hybrid model. Like that is my own thing. I believe we could celebrate in this and share some of those ideas. And this is my take. And that is what I'm looking for in my model in Lloydminster as we start by next year. Once we start that next year, I'm looking to start the hybrid model, but I'll prefer the traditional one. But if I have to include a hybrid model, I'm open to actually doing that.
Mhm.
You know, there's a term that a colleague of mine who, and actually of Cheryl's, Todd Odgers, who ran the intercultural program at Norquest College and was, you know, they were partners with our intercultural sessions that we offer in our mentorship program. And coincidentally, I'm leaving today for Vancouver for an Immigrant Employment Council meeting for 2 days, and I'll be meeting with Todd. He now works at BCIT, but he coined a phrase. I don't know if it's his phrase, but he talks about skinship, and it sounds creepy, but skinship in the sense that, you know, that's the thing during COVID times. You know, we didn't have that opportunity. I mean, we were virtual, you know, sort of virtually connecting, and the piece that was missing was what he called skinship. And I said, boy, that I miss that, because, you know, those coffees, getting together, the nonverbal that we miss out on, it's another level of relationship. And, you know, yes, we survived during COVID, and we pivoted, we adapted, we became hybridized. But you know, the fact is, we missed out on the skinship piece. And I think as human beings, you know, sometimes that coffee chat, as Bruce Randall used to say, you know, like having a coffee with somebody is just, there's something about that you miss when you're on a screen. Najib, did you want to chime in on some things here? What's your good news story?
News story or during COVID? Which one?
Good news. Good news. We're celebrating. These, give us a Christmas gift or holiday gift.
The Christmas gift is, well, I'm going back to the COVID time. We just entered into an agreement with the government, and also we piloted the project at that time as well with Eric and Kryak, and we had two options: shut it down or think outside the box. What is, you know, going back to that, wearing a private hat, like private sector hat. What are our SWOT? Let's do some SWOT analysis here. I know we can see people in person. We can't do this in person. We can't do that, but we cannot afford not to look outside the box. And so, believe it or not, the program bloomed during initial phases of COVID-19. As soon as we launched it, it was all launched during COVID-19. And so everything, we shifted everything. We put a lot of resources into going virtual. And the reason it's boomed is because you know, our refugee stream is they've had issues when it comes to digital literacy, but we knew that our internationally trained professionals, or those who are engaging within the program, they have high digital literacy, and how we can leverage that. And so from intake to matches to meetings, we've went online. Everything was virtual. And again, as I said, our numbers from day one of launching, within 3 months, it went from 10 clients to 70 clients during COVID, the initial phase of COVID-19. Again, look outside the box. Don't give up. I know we kind of split within the programs. As soon as the COVID-19 happened, within a month, the team kind of divided. There are people that had thought, well, we need to shut down some programmings or remove some of the programmings or completely stop programming. There's other half of the team says, no, we're going forward with everything full on. And so we got blessed with management because they put a lot of resources and shifted everything really quickly.
The winner of today's 12 Days of Christmas Draw is Joe.
Sorry about that. Again, yes, we had to go and think like a private corporation. Do we shut it down? We can't afford to shut it down. We didn't. Mm-hmm. I personally didn't think as a non-for-profit, how would a corporation survive in times like this? And how do you kind of leverage on resources currently have? Do your SWOT analysis, and that's what we've done. It paid off.
I think that's a big part of what we do, and I know we were having before you guys came on, we're talking to Rana about issues in recruitment, and I always sort of fall back on, especially working with our team, is like strategizing, sort of recalibrating, strategizing, looking inward, and being creative. Like, what have we missed? Where are the possibilities? Where are the opportunities to, sort of to grow? And so it's not that we, if we hit a stumbling block, we give up. Kind of like Ricardo, it's like, get out there. Reach out and start doing it. And it sounds like it's kind of interesting for some of us who are a little bit older. It's old school. Like, get out and actually meet with people and call people like we used to do in the old days. And it's it's not that complicated. But sometimes we forget about the obvious things and getting out, meeting people. I think Crystal she's got a great story because she where you were out shopping or something, you went to a farmer's market or something, and she's like recruiting mentors at the farmer's market just on her day off because she's met somebody. And that was something we do constantly. You leverage your social capital, your community, the people that everybody's fair game. In fact, sometimes and I was saying sometimes when I'm walking, in certain places and I see somebody, I think they kind of want to avoid my gaze because they oh, here comes Doug. He's going to probably ask us about volunteering for mentorship. And so I usually don't, sort of present that ask right away. I am courteous, and I do ask about people's families and so on, and then kind of move towards, hey, your background would just be perfect for some of our clients. So, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And again, these aren't sophisticated strategies. It's just highly relational and getting out and meeting people and talking about it. Selling the program in a sense, and trying to incite some interest and some kind of intrinsic tweak for them, so that that this would be good for you as a mentor or as a mentee to participate in this kind of initiative. So,
Doug, I want to draw upon this discussion and your expertise, and some of you have been doing this mentorship program longer than we have. And when I tell we, I'm talking about in the rural sector. I know we have a very established mentorship program at CCIS, which serves the urban setting and is a networking and professional and engineering. And I mean, it's a well-oiled machine. the rural piece, and it's interesting because I listen to Chemo talk about Lloyd, and I listen to my colleagues in Medicine Hat, and I listen to my colleagues in Lethbridge. And when I look at those rural centers, they are closer to an urban piece than, say, a Claresholm or a High River or an Okotoks. And as I look at approaching this, I wonder if anyone has ever, if there are any examples, and Dagan, you may know, because I'm thinking to help my staff out. We need to do somewhat of a community scan or needs assessment among the business sector to find out where there are gaps, what type of services they may need, and then based on that, come back with the supposition that in what ways do you see then a mentor or being a mentor and having a mentee could help you in where these gaps may exist, right? In terms of expertise within your organization. So does anyone have any type of community scan of which I just described that I could unleash in one of these very small communities?
Well, I'm just going to maybe quickly, because I will have to leave because I got to get to the airport here. But Ricardo, I'll just, now this is going back to ancient days of Eric, when we first started, and when we were sort of litmus testing, what is Eric going to be doing? I mean, I got hired, and we had a board, and we had a list of systemic barriers for newcomers. Okay. And well, there was an existing program at that time, TRIAC out of Toronto, and that was, the I guess the benchmark for many of us. But I like you, I was like, well, where do we go with this? What is the need? I mean, yes, I can see that there were these systemic barriers, and then again these hackneyed terms, right? What's the low hanging fruit for Eric, and that, because I have a business board, so they would use a lot of those business terms, and so one of the things I wanted to do is, not necessarily in a needs assessment, but we did focus groups. And I wanted to check to see, and I used 3 different groupings to do these focus groups to try and see, is there interest in mentorship? And this would have been back in 2008, 2009. And so we basically gathered people, friendlies, people who we knew, some new people who might be interested. So we did agencies first, we did immigrant population second, and then we did the business community. And so we didn't do a broad brush study of Edmonton. I think it would have been we just didn't have the funds. But what we wanted to do was present what we thought was a model that we would consider, and we wanted to get feedback on it. And I was prepared to hear anything, like, no, there's enough mentorship programs, or what's the, really, what is the benefit of having something like this? And as it turned out, we had some really robust conversations in these focus groups, and with anywhere from 12 to 14 people in each of these groups, and some great suggestions, and actually it helped to sort of build support for mentorship, because they had a chance to talk amongst their colleagues and sort of bash it around a little bit and pick it apart. And at the end of of all those 3 focus groups, we determined that there was overall support for this kind of initiative. So that was enough to give me my working papers to go ahead. And as you said, Ricardo, what are some of the details in that? What do employers need? What do agencies need? What do immigrants need? Having all 3 perspectives in there, because all 3 of them had different variations on maybe similar kinds of needs, but some had some very distinct needs. So to answer your question, we didn't do a study, but we did do focus groups, and we found that to be very helpful. And again, some of those people became champions for us, became recruiters for us, became mentees for us. And it was great just to get that sort of broader support from the community.
Well, that's good. Thanks. Najib, I heard you talk about the success of that particular approach that you took. And it just occurred to me, and I'm wondering, how did you entice, or how did you manage to garner the interest of possible mentors throughout that process?
We launched with a mentorship program, but we knew that in our community, just the mentorship piece itself will not be as successful as it is in bigger center, because there's no other services available or offered by our organization within the community for international trained professionals. We were fortunate to add a component of that career mentorship and work placement, a program called work placement. We were really quickly able to add that. We've done a community scanning a year or two prior to that to kind of gauge what are the gaps and what are the needs. And of course, it was not to our surprising that there was a lack of, there was a huge gap for skilled international or skilled individuals. So we kind of made that approach. It's not just mentorship. Here are benefits of that work placement as well. So here's an untapped source of talent, but you don't have to just mentor and just give, but you can also gain from this as well. Allow those individuals to showcase their abilities and skills to you. And so every time we've done a work placement, either paid or unpaid, especially during COVID, and because there was a scarcity of skilled workers in our community, and we will establish that relationship with employers and not only in work placement, but also they will offer mentorship. So we kind of done two things beside each other, right? Work placement and mentorship at the same time. Every time we've done mentorship, we will gain a work placement. Every time we've done work placement, we will gain a couple of mentorship from that opportunities. So I found it just doing mentorship in our community was really, really challenging. To just reaching out and asking individuals or organization is your source, because if you have one work placement and paid from there, you will have at least 2 or 3 mentorship. If you have one mentorship in a place, you will have work placement coming out. So expanding on that piece of supporting international trained professional, I never wanted to just stay in one kind of spot, just mentorship. As you said, pivot. How do you support one program with another? And so that was my approach. I've tried local immigration partnership. I've reached out to chamber. I've reached out to other stakeholders. But at the end of the day, it seems like we had to do most of that work on the ground. It's not that we didn't leverage on their support. We found ourselves to do most of that work ourselves. So it's then we built the program around that. It was and then we had to adopt the connector program. So if you don't have time to commit 4 hours a week, can you commit to half an hour? And I can have you as a connector today, but believe it or not, if I have you on my pool, I will knock on your door, and I will knock on your door 3 months later after that meeting, that connector meeting, which is half an hour. At some point, I am confident that I will get you to do a 4 hours mentorship. So kind of a little bit of salesperson hat, a little bit of corporate hat, a little bit of all that together, and stay persistent.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go. I have to race to the airport. And, I want to wish you all a happy holiday season. I'm looking forward to having more of these conversations. Sarah is our representative here at the table today from ERIC. So if you have any questions with regards to our program here in Edmonton, I know Sarah can handle those questions. But really, just love hearing all of these conversations. I really do. It's just I still kind of recount when we started, and there was Craig, but I didn't really know Bruce at that time, and it was so nice to sort of build the community and having people that I could talk to and litmus test things or find out what was their rocks in the road that they had that they were, and we essentially discovered that there was a lot of commonalities between all programs, and so it was great to have colleagues that understood the language we use, the issues we're facing, and so I'm really just very pleased to hear the conversations today. And I even see a little smile on Rana's face too, and despite the struggles that you've got.
Yeah, thank you so much for the session. It was so informative. I note a lot of new ideas and strategy we're gonna try to implement in our program, and hopefully by our next meeting I will come with new good updates.
And a request I'll make, because like there was a little traffic in the chat, Crystal and Chemo, like, could you share things if you're okay? Like, some of you may be already connected, but if you're okay sort of sharing your email with each other, maybe could you put that in the chat? And then it's easy to either copy that out, or probably easiest to save the chat before you log off. And then you can contact each other, because I'm happy to play that role in convening, but I think part of what Doug and I are wanting to establish community that doesn't actually need us to be the middle point of it, that you can connect with each other, because we know, being in conversations with all of you, you're developing great stuff at whatever stage you are. And so it would be great if you could share that. So.
For me, I think one quick one here is that I think thanks everyone. And I think this is a good Christmas gift, knowing some people like Ricardo that I know, who's also been very helpful to me as part of this. It's going to be wonderful. And I follow Eric and the Alberta Mentorship on Twitter. I just even saw this Nigerian lawyer who was part of the Eric, and now is a partner in a law firm in Calgary. And I think these are some of the things that I also try to educate myself, following on Twitter and finding what the Alberta Mentorship is doing, or Eric is doing, to learn more and then see how best I can develop. So thanks for that, and have a wonderful Christmas season and holiday season.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, Doug, and thank you, folks, for facilitating this sort of meeting and this sort of, even if it's very cathartic. But Najib, thank you for your insights. I agree, a great epiphany. We have a person doing 10 hours of community connections, and I guess it's a different pocket of funding, federal. But I something tweaked in my mind about looking at mentors as volunteers and see how that could be a match, a matching in that bucket of funding to augment and complement the mentorship program. So I got to do some thinking around that piece. But thank you all for your collective wisdom, your collective sharing. And I always say that it's through collective effort that we get collective impact. So Cheryl, I look at your statement here about what Grand Prairie is doing with job description. If I have my email posted, if you could send me copies of those, I could learn a thing or two. So thank you kindly, and let's keep the collective going.
Yes.
Great, thanks.
Thank
you.
Hey, everyone.
Nice meeting everyone. Thank you for everything.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.